So I've been getting a lot of questions about this short I made a few years ago. So I figured it would be a good moment to show you what I did, the pedals I used and their settings. Right, so here's the setup. A TD3-MO, the modded out version from Behringer, and that goes straight out with a regular mono jack cable into an analog delay by Joyo. That goes into a Trinity 2 delay by TC Electronic, which isn't made anymore, but I believe the new version is the red one, the Hall of Fame. That goes into a Boss Blues driver, just a regular analog distortion pedal. Sounds great on everything. And that goes straight to the output. So I'm recording everything with a Zoom H6 right now. I'm not using any reamp pedals, so just straight patching. And I also didn't patch anything on the TD3 itself. So let's start by making a basic sound. For the video I actually didn't use the onboard sequencer. If you stop the pattern and you go to pitch mode, you've got a little keyboard over here. So you can hold and play notes. Just make sure to turn up the decay all the way. And that's a cool feature, not possible on the original. But if you keep holding and you put the decay all the way up, it will just sustain forever. So this is already a pretty fat sounding patch. I'm using the sub oscillator here. If I turn that off, so I can either choose the square or the saw. I'm using a little bit of overdrive here. And 0 to no resonance at the moment. Now let me walk through the pedals one by one. So this one, analog delay. I've got a mix that goes up to 50%, which is a part of many guitar pedals. So I can't reach 100% with this one. And also a weird characteristic is that the output is phase inverted. So if you use it in parallel, you need to know that. But I've got a time control, which goes up to a second or maybe a bit longer. Or really short. Feedback. The feedback starts to distort. It sounds like there's a high-pass filter in there, which makes it sound like a toad or whatever. The Trinity is a reverb pedal, so I can turn up the decay. The mix. And you can choose from a bunch of different presets, different reverb algorithms. So this one has a flanger. Vibrato. Yeah, all kinds of different sounds. I believe for the video I mainly use this one. Just a bit of high end. Or you can darken it. Then the distortion. So if I turn down the gain all the way. This is just the output level, I believe. And this is the input gain, so the distortion amount. If I turn up the gain too much, I get a lot of noise, of course. And also a little bit of whine in the higher frequencies. I think that's coming from this one. This is a digital pedal. Gain staging is still important with pedals. Alright, so the first patch, a drone patch, is to turn on the delay with a medium to long delay time, a high feedback, high mix, some reverb, and some distortion. And now what's really cool is if you slowly open up the filter, then you really start to hear all the character sounds of this filter, because it's really unique. And it's especially noticeable if you turn up the resonance, of course. If I lower the reverb amount a bit and the delay, turn up the distortion a bit, maybe turn up the resonance some more. If I turn off the effects, that sounds like this. Still the same sound, but yeah, of course it sounds more interesting with a little bit of delay, reverb and distortion. So all the pedals are doing is just amplifying what's already there. And yeah, you can go mad with the resonance. I can also play around with the sweep settings a bit. So in the highest setting it goes a little bit higher. So the sweep speed. The accent sweep really influences the maximum amount. So on 2, on 1, it really starts to scream. On 0, even more. If I turn off the distortion for a second. This is the Space Monkeys patch, I believe. R2D2. Really simple. Delay and reverb. You can add even more character if you turn up the overdrive. And the filter FM. Ooh. That's pretty cool. By the way, if you want a lower pitch, you can of course lower the tuning. But you can also press this button, the octave down button, and then you need to keep holding it. So you get a lower octave. It doesn't latch, unfortunately. If you move it all the way to the lowest tuning and you add some more distortion, maybe a really short delay this time. So you get some flanger type effects. And with a really high feedback, since we're going into a distortion, this really goes mad. You really get a scream type of sound. really cool. Also a cool trick, if you turn up the resonance all the way, you can also disable the oscillator. And now we get just the filter resonance. So without resonance, we won't hear anything. But if I turn it up, let me increase the level. Ooh, that's high. But if you add some delay and some reverb, ooh, that goes really high. Until I close the cutoff too much, then it disappears. So you get a really clean sine type of sound. And if you enable filter tracking, you can play it like a regular oscillator. But if I combine this with an oscillator, maybe if I reduce the filter cutoff, still using the FM right now. Which adds a lot. The sub oscillator also adds a lot. Of course, I can add an filter envelope as well. That's pretty fat. But yeah, a little bit of delay, a little bit of reverb, and some distortion never hurts. I do lose a little bit of low end. There's like a tilt EQ on here, so I can reduce the higher frequencies. Or the lower. A cool trick you can do with a delay, if you use a long feedback, medium delay time. If I use a high feedback amount and then I change the tuning, and then the delay starts to interact with the notes on the TD3. If I start a bit higher, adjust the delay time. If I select a really low pitch, so yeah, that's most of the sound. You've got more options if you use the patching points. I've made another video about that. But let's say I want to take it a step further. Then I can, for example, use the Trinity because it has some cool feedback modes. Or, I mean, it uses chorus effects, flanger effects and stuff like that. There's even like a shimmer option on here. With a really low cutoff. little bit of tuning. That's perfect for drones. This is like a chopper effect. You can also load your own custom patches on here. Yeah, just a bit of tremolo after the reverb. I believe this one has a flanger. So one thing to note, the change, so the signal of order of the pedals really affects the sound a lot. So right now if I use the distortion after the reverb, I will amplify all those little movements. But if I were to use it the other way around, it sounds completely different. It doesn't sound as big anymore. So yeah, play around with that, putting distortion after your reverb or before it. Yeah, I think that's it. I mainly used the character of the filter when opening and closing with a lot of resonance. Play around with the sweep settings. FM. The pitch and the filter tracking. And the sub oscillator. Also turning off the oscillator is also cool, especially with the filter FM opens up. Alright, that's it. Some of you considered this video cheating since I used effect pedals. But I think that's bullshit. These pedals react to whatever is at their input. We're not making music for purists here. We're using the machine to its fullest potential. And who hasn't used some effects on their synth? All I'm using is a delay, a distortion and a reverb. Basic effects you'll find in any DAW. So go ahead and experiment and try to look beyond assets for a moment, because this machine can do so much more than that. Right, thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions and I'll see you soon with another tutorial.